Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to 10 accidental inventions you can't live without. And I mean, in terms of accidental inventions, there's probably many things that I'm using right now, maybe not things here, but in general, just day-to-day life that, I mean, this is how it is, that you wouldn't assume was an accident, or maybe it was made, but then it was made for a different thing and stuff like that. And yeah, this then turned into a useful thing for something completely different. But I don't know what things will be here. Would it be like mobile phones? Maybe not. Or like specific things like torches. I don't know. Although, what else are you going to use a torch for, really? I don't know what the idea would be other than to see in the dark. But we're going to check this out. Hopefully going to enjoy. Links also in the description to my Patreon, where you can see reactions that I can't post to YouTube. Movies, TV series, weather reactions, YouTube videos that are copyrighted, or sports videos, all that sort of stuff. Links are there. But let's check this out and see some of these inventions, and I guess I'll see if I use them or not.
Get right into it. Number 10, snow globes. So back in the day...
Snow globes? What, the things that you shake? I can't live without a snow globe. I mean, I can.
There was this guy trying to make a brighter light bulb. He thought adding water and tiny particles to the bulb would help brighten things up. Well, turns out it didn't. But what it did do was create a cool snowfall effect when shaken. Fast forward a bit, and these accidental art pieces got their big break at the Paris Universal Expo of 1878. People went nuts for them. Then, a smart cookie from Austria thought it would be cool to put a model of the newly built Eiffel Tower in them, and bam, the souvenir snow globe was born. Suddenly, everyone wanted one. People really liked the idea of taking home a piece of their travels without the hassle of, dragging the actual Eiffel Tower with them. Number 9.
I mean, I can live without them, but...
The Popsicle. This one was...
You know what, I'll give it that, because I do love an ice lolly or a popsicle. They are good, especially in summertime. I mean, all year round, to be honest, but summertime.
Was invented by an 11-year-old kid named Frank Epperson back in 1905. After a day of playing around...
Oh, they're quite a new invention.
He left a drink he had made from flavored soda powder and water outside overnight. The next morning, Frank finds his drink has turned into a block of ice, and the steering stick is still inside it. He sees this and pulls the frozen treat out by the stick. Frank named his invention the Epsicle, and it quickly became his favorite treat. It was also a hit with all the kids in the neighborhood. Years later, his kids start calling it Popsicle, so he changes the name to Popsicle, and thank goodness he did, because Epsicle sounds like a medical condition. Number 8, potato chips.
What a weird history to them. I would not have guessed it happened like that.
So, there was this chef named George Crumb. In 1853, he was working at a fancy restaurant in New York. One day, a picky customer sent back his French fries. He was complaining that they were too thick and soggy, and not salty enough. George wasn't in a good mood that day, and decided to teach this customer a lesson. Crumb sliced the potatoes super thin, fried them until they were super crispy, and then dumped a bunch of salt on them. But the customer loved them, and everyone kept coming to his restaurant to try
No way this is how it started. What?
this new salty, crispy potato chips. Number 7, tea bags. Alright, so we're in the early 1900s New York. Thomas Sullivan was a tea merchant. Sending tea samples to customers was a common thing back then, but while other merchants were using expensive metal boxes to send their tea samples, Sullivan had a different plan. He thought, why spend so much on metal boxes when I can use something cheaper? So, he decided to go for silk bags instead. His customers were a bit puzzled at first. They had never seen tea sent like this. Instead of opening the bags and making the tea the traditional way, they thought they should pop the silk bag into a cup and pour hot water on it. And just like that, they discovered a super easy way to make tea. Turns out, people loved this new tea-making method. It was so much simpler and less messy. They started reaching out to Sullivan, asking for more of those handy tea pouches. Seeing how popular this accident had become, Sullivan got a brilliant idea. He started selling tea in these bags officially, and boom, his business took off.
No way. How has he lucked it out that well? Fair enough.
Like a rocket. Number 6, matchsticks. So, the year is 1826, and we've got this British chemist named John Walker. He's just doing his chemist thing, mixing up chemicals, probably dreaming about the periodic table or whatever chemists daydream about. Then he notices this crusty, dried-up lump at the end of his mixing stick. So, like any sensible person faced with a mess, he decides to scrape it off. But the thing bursts into flames. Walker thinks this could be a business idea, so he starts making and selling matchsticks at his local bookstore. Walker,
Probably not the safest place to sell them. I mean, but I mean, at the same time, I assume nothing went wrong. So,
being the gentleman that he is, decides not to patent his invention. He believed that sharing his invention with the world was way more important than filling his pockets with cash. So naturally, other inventors copied his invention and started selling matchsticks. Despite missing out on becoming the Bill Gates of his time, Walker didn't do too bad for himself. He stuck to his day job as a pharmacist and eventually retired comfortably. Number 5. Ice cream.
That's a bit sad, but that's life, I guess.
Cones. Let's zoom back to 1904.
Ice cream cones. So I'm imagining, what would they have been made for initially? Hats? Or like, maybe it's like a cone to have like soups in? Although the cones, I mean, cones in 1904 would have probably been a lot thicker, or maybe thinner, I don't know, but I'm going to assume thicker. So you could have like hot, warm soups, and then you have the cone at the end. I mean, I don't know. What else could they be used for?
We're in the middle of the St. Louis World's Fair. This place was where all the coolest inventions of the time were on display for everyone to look at. Ernest Hamwi is an immigrant from Syria, and he's here selling zalabia, which is this super tasty, crispy, waffle-like pastry. Right next to Ernest is an ice cream seller who has a problem. He's run clean out of dishes to serve his ice cream in. But Hamwi doesn't just stand there. He takes one of his crispy zalabias, rolls it into a cone, and hands it over to the desperate ice cream dude. The ice cream seller then scoops some ice cream right into this newly formed cone. The customers lose their minds over this revolutionary way to gobble down ice cream. It's portable, it's convenient, and it's delicious. Number 4. Cornflakes. It all started with the Kellogg brothers, John and Will. These two were running a
Why does he look like Mr. Garrison from South Park? What the fuck?
Hospital. Their job included making sure their patients ate healthy food, which often meant baking bread. But one day, something unexpected happened. The Kellogg brothers had prepared a batch of wheat dough for their daily bread-making task, but they accidentally left this dough out overnight. By the time they got back to it, the dough had started fermenting. John tried to fix things by rolling out the dough. He was hoping to get rid of the extra water, but instead he got wheat flakes. His brother saw a golden opportunity in these flakes. He decided to sell them, but with corn instead of wheat. John wasn't too happy about this, because he believed it was wrong to profit off what was meant to be a health food. But Will went ahead anyway. He started the Kellogg Company. He also added sugar to the cornflakes to make it more tasty and started marketing it to kids. Number 3, Vaseline. So, back in the 1800s, there was a chemist named Robert Chesbrough. He was visiting some oil rigs when he noticed something cool. The workers at the oil rig were using this weird, jelly-like gunk that built up on the machines to help heal their cuts and burns. This gooey stuff was actually a leftover from drilling for oil, something most people saw as waste. You've got to hand it to the first guy who thought rubbing oil residue on an
This is what Vaseline is, where it comes from. I mean, I don't use Vaseline, but goddamn, a lot of people do. And this is where it initially stemmed from. Damn.
open wound was a good idea, but it turns out they were onto something. Chesbrough decided to work on refining this goop, and he created what we now know as Vaseline. But convincing people to buy it wasn't easy at first. Imagine trying to sell something that came from oil rigs for skincare. Tough sell, right? Chesbrough would actually burn himself on purpose, and then apply Vaseline to show how it helped heal his skin. He was so convinced of Vaseline's benefits that he ate a spoonful of it every day. He claimed it was his secret to a long life, and he lived to be 96 years old.
I mean, fair enough, but that is...
Imagine how long he would have lived if he didn't eat a spoonful of Vaseline every single day. Number 2, microwave oven. Percy Spencer was an engineer working on radar technology. One day, Percy's messing around with these things called magnetrons, which sounds like a villain from a sci-fi movie, but they're actually just fancy tubes that send out microwaves. So, Percy's standing there, probably thinking about what he's going to have for lunch. Then he reaches into his pocket and finds a disaster. His peanut butter candy bar had melted. That got him thinking, if microwaves can do that to his snack, what else could they do? So, he grabs some popcorn, throws it in front of the magnetron, and makes the world's first microwave popcorn.
Damn.
Percy decides to turn this discovery into a kitchen appliance. He whips up the Rada Range, a machine that costs a small fortune and weighs as much as a small car. Not exactly your countertop model. The Rada Range was a flop at first. People were scared of it, thinking it was some sort of radioactive monster. Also, it was $5,000. That's like choosing...
in those days as well. Jesus.
Between a microwave and a decent used car. But by the 1970s, it's shrunk down to fit on your counter, doesn't require you to sell a kidney to afford it, and suddenly, everyone wants one. Number 1. Chocolate chip cookies.
How can you accidentally invent chocolate chip cookies?
It's 1938, and Ruth Wakefield...
Wait, they didn't have chocolate chip cookies before 1938? I'm sure someone had chocolate chip cookies before this. There's no way that the world has gone hundreds of thousands of years, or tens of thousands of years, without chocolate chip cookies. Come on, don't say that to me.
decides to bake a batch of chocolate cookies, but she's out of cocoa powder. Instead of running to the store, she decides to grab a bar of Nestlé chocolate, chops it up into little chunks, and tosses them into her dough, thinking they'd melt and blend into the batter. But the chocolate gods had other plans. Those chunks stayed solid, making what we now bow down to as the chocolate chip cookie. She started selling these cookies, and needless to say, they were a big hit. So Nestle started selling pre-chopped chocolate, and they slapped her cookie recipe on their packaging.
What?
In exchange, she got a lifetime supply of chocolate. That's all.
Probably not the best thing. I mean, I don't think you want... I mean, it's cool to get a lifetime supply of chocolate, but I thought it'd be a bit of a better award than that, or surprise than that. But that snow globe looks different. Imagine you tried to make the most shit chips possible, and your customer goes, how did you make this? How do you respond? Well, I basically tried to make the world's most shit hot chips ever. I failed and therefore succeeded. But there we go. Accidental inventions. Thank God for these accidents. Bar the first one, the snow globes. I don't care about that. Although they can be quite cool for Christmas, or you like, I don't know, you just shake it. It's a bit of fun for a few seconds, and you leave it on your side of your counter in your living room. But yeah, hopefully enjoyed, and until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.